Hello, and welcome to Skylight Live, presented by Skylight Theatre. My name is Tyree Marshall, and I'm an artistic...
Real quick, Tyree.
And
a quick glitch.
Oh.
There you go. Go ahead.
Hello, and welcome to Skylight Live, presented by Skylight Theatre. My name is Tyree Marshall, and I'm an artistic associate at Skylight. Welcome to our second event of our 2021 season, Stand Up, Speak Out. Stand Up, Speak Out is a night of poetry and conversation to illuminate intimate partner violence. 1 in 4 women, 1 in 9 men, and 77% of trans and non-binary folks have suffered some form of intimate partner violence in their lifetime, with statistics being even higher for trans people of color who have done sex work, been homeless, or have a disability. Intimate partner violence makes up for 15% of all violent crime. So tonight, in honor of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we wanted to shed light on intimate partner violence by inviting 6 incredible poets: Alpharaoh, Amon, Elise, Keeley Williams, Linda Ravenswood, Nancy Azcona, and Naneka Jackson to share their thoughts, experiences, and words through their art. We want to thank all of you for your continued support of Violence Intervention Program and Skylight Theatre. And if you haven't done so already, we are still taking donations. So if you'd like to donate, please visit skylighttheatre.org, or you can go Venmo us at Skylight Theatre. The duration of the show is about 20 minutes long, and it will be followed by a talkback. So if you were to have any questions or comments during the talkback, make sure to put it in the chat below. And now I am honored to present Stand Up, Speak Out.
Hi, my name is Amon Elise, and tonight I am reading Maybe I Should Have Told Him. When your brother tells you the story, you are not ever ready. Because who is ever ready to connect those types of dots? I mean, it's easy to see why someone would fall for my brother. He is the first man I ever learned to love, after all. His laughter, how tall he is, the way he can set me at peace the moment he walks into a room. But the story goes something like this. His best friend takes a girl to prom. There's a limo, a dance floor, and spiked punch. And a hotel room is mentioned, and my breath catches for the punchline. Speaking of punchlines, my rapist is 6'2". His laugh is only louder than my own, can make my hardships take their shoes off at the door. When I tell you he turned everything I ever loved ugly, know it to be true. But back to the story. The next lines are something like, his best friend's prom is over now. The woman is on his arm, using it as a crutch. She's stumbling over her words, her plans, her ideas for how the night would end. Pause. Maybe I should have prefaced that this story isn't too far from my own. Maybe I should have told him that I had been raped. Maybe I should have told my rapist. Because this isn't the first time it's happened to me. Probably not to her either. This is just the first time I have chosen to speak. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to the story. His best friend drags her into the elevator, which pulls her up to the 14th floor. And when she loses consciousness, he fireman lifts her without emergency onto a bed where he proceeds to tuck her in, remove himself from the situation, and shut the door behind him. My brother has this creeping smile across his face. looks at me with such pride as he says, "That's why he's my best friend. He didn't even touch her, just let her go. He's such a good guy." I don't have the breath to witness all the implications. What does this say about the rest of his friends? How the standards are so low to be a good guy that all of a sudden I can see my brother as a rapist? Not a monster, not villain, not an uncle, but sibling. We're both out of breath right now, but mine is trauma-based and his is laughing. And we share that sound, that echo, our cheekbones, a womb at some point that he has seemed to miss, that both he and my rapist have seemed to miss, that I'm not just someone's sister, someone's daughter, but a human whose value is not derived from her relationship to anyone else. Because this girl in the story is someone worth being to. And she's not laughing either, but I didn't say it because then we'd argue. And it hurts to realize the reason they go so hard for the Weinsteins, the Kobes, the Cosbys of the world is because they recognize it within themselves. But then again, maybe I should have told him I'd been raped. Maybe then he'd echo my distaste. Maybe then he wouldn't be using our laugh to mitigate a story not too far from my own. But then I'd have to spare him the details I'm currently lost in, like how my brother and rapist are sharing the same height, how they laugh from their bellies, how they make me feel safe, how they both worship the ground I walk on, how they've met, he and my brother shared a room, my brother and I shared a womb, and how even my rapist has a little brother. I pray his laughter sounds as innocent as he is. Thank you.
Up next is Linda Ravenswood. This is the house where the woman gets everything she wants.
The house where the woman gets everything she wants. This is the house where the woman gets everything she wants. Never has to brawl. Nobody says she's missing out on a real man's hands, where no growth but through pain is debunked. The house where no one throws a woman's art out the window. The house where no one locks bedroom doors or bathroom doors. You come and go free. The house where no one challenges her right at night to make it seem she's less than because she wants to live without drama. The house where it is understood the difference between writing drama and living drama. The house that accepts peonies, wants figs to flourish. The house where a woman never has to throw up, never has to put her face in the toilet. The house where a woman stays muddy all day if she wants. The house where a woman can be juniper, can be her own houseplant, imagines the bells and arches of a map, becomes a map. The house where a woman covers herself and is her own vase, her neck and veins and stems, taut buds, her hair trickling. The house, dreaming the house, where sunlight covers the living woman and she is safe.
Up next is Naneka Jackson, Strangers.
Strangers. Don't I know you? I think we might have met before. Was it Mexico? Do you remember me from Tulum? Maybe it's Phoenix. Have you ever lived in Arizona? Your face is so familiar. It's weird, but I really feel like I've seen you somewhere before. Was it Philly? Did you used to eat Bodinos all the time and ride your bicycle with too many burgers on your back and my love tucked in your pocket, safe from the cold? Have you ever brought me lunch before when I was at work near City Hall? Do you like craft beer, particularly sours? Did you ever build a fort out of clothesline and sheets we tie-dyed ourselves? Did you ever call me a bitch? Have we ever fucked in a parking lot? I vaguely remember taking you to the hospital 5 times in 1 week. Seem to recall cleaning your cuts that time you fell out of your ex-girlfriend's car. Did we ever talk about having kids? Growing old together? Did you ever tell me you didn't want me over and over? Have you ever sang about my velvet skin? Do you know me from Kingston? 2013 specifically? Was it you who asked me to be their girlfriend because you didn't know what else to do with how much you loved me? Did you propose 2 years later? Wait, did we elope? Have you ever stared with horror at my face because this time I would need stitches and you had lost to your anger again? Is that your name? Are you my emergency contact? Did we rescue a cat from a desert? Have you ever told me you loved me? Did you whisper it into my neck? Did you cry it into my back? Have you ever given me a ring and then flushed it down the toilet? Were you at my father's funeral? Did you give me a black eye in Atlanta? Was it your spit I wiped off the side of my face in the bathroom, a collection of your disgust because I had decided to stand up for myself? Was it you on your knees at the door of the home we had built with memories and promises because you had convinced me to be brave enough to try again? I could swear I know you, but it's possible I could have this all wrong. Yeah, actually, the more I think about it, I don't think those are their eyes. And you have different hands. Theirs are covered in sorries. And you don't seem like you've ever apologized in your life. My mistake for taking up so much of your time when we are just strangers. It's not you. I don't think I know you at all.
Up next, we have Keeley Williams.
Sometimes our memories fail us. Sometimes we look back into the corridors of our minds and we see nothing. We find pieces, shattered scraps of snapshots of a time we rarely return to. I never gave it much thought. The idea that I deeply disdained older men hugging me, touching me, looking at me for too long. I never gave it much thought. That touch was something I both deeply craved and feared. That I cringed when my father, my brother, my uncles touched me, hugged me. It often felt raw and foreign to feel such a way when they never gave me a reason. I never gave it much thought. That I hated eyes. The kind of eyes that looked at you, the hollow eyes that surveyed and stained burn marks into your frame that lingered when you changed. So I obsessed over my form, what she looked like, what clothes draped over her, careful not to draw too much attention. See, I never gave it much thought because memories often escape me. Sometimes they're replays of others' stories, secondary accounts my mind coded as our very own memories. I never gave it much thought until that picture. That picture that rushed a brush fire of physical memory over me, a visceral exorcism conjured from a memory, a face. His face. I thought I had forgotten. His eyes that haunt me. The recall of the demented way they pierced my body, the memory that arose like the Roman Empire and tumbled down just as quickly. See, I can't remember. I can't remember if he made the oxygen flee my lungs and turned the air ice cold. I feared him still. I disdained him still, and I knew it was him, the father of my elementary school friend, the father who makes me fear the touch of older men, who makes me uncomfortable when others touch my skin, turn the touch of intimacy forbidden. I never gave it much thought that some of us have hidden memories, that we all can't recall our own horror stories, can't remember the demons that ripped something from us that are failed memories. The dark tunnels of empty childhood memories are protection. Barriers between ourselves and a beast. We do not all remember, but our bodies never forget.
Up next is Nancy Azcona, Untold.
I was wounded, struck by the hand of mature for her age. At 8, you saw the body of a Grecian goddess, sweet nectar you chose to call yours. And I, brats, dolls, and basketball courts, was ignorant to the lens you saw me through. You stole my youth, my trust. Not even my absent alcoholic father damaged me as much. Who made you ruler over me? Did you know that for years to come, you would so very intricately carve the pathways to my deepest fears, leading them to places I hadn't even known yet? You fucked me up. I saw you at church one day. It had been years, but your secret was safe with me. Or maybe it was my secret to keep saving. Behind, at the last pew, you stood. Oh, holy art thou. Did you come to ask for forgiveness from God, from me? You caused me pain. That day, I knew what it was like to have a panic attack and conceal it like the shame you had gifted me. For years, I bathed in it. No one knew I at fault for being alone at the right time. Temptation drew you closer, fogging your compass of morality. I am my own, built from the earth. You attempted to suffocate me. You buried me, handed me a shovel to help you hide your sins. Nearly 10 years of silence, I adopted the name Resilient. I spoke, and you no longer owned me. I am the rose that grew from concrete. I am strength, self-appointed martyr. I no longer follow the beliefs that say that you can be forgiven. I do not forgive you. I do not thank you for making me the woman that stands before you today. I do not wish you good. You know not what good is, and may good never find you.
Hey y'all, this is Alpharaoh, and this piece is titled, It Happened to Me. Underreported sexual assault towards men is the result of salt poured on a wound that boys are taught to take to the tomb, rather than let anyone assume weakness for not knowing how to protect themselves against the public image that projects men as incapable of feeling anything other than blood filling our penile heads. Little is said and less is known of the damaged child who has grown to believe that his self-worth was buried deep in the earth along with his father and his innocence, never to be reclaimed. His trauma is sustained by shame that magnifies the guilt of an inner voice disguised as his inner guide, whom taught him to question whether he liked guys because he was exposed to sex poses to which he didn't have a choice but to abide. His heart song grew somber. His path lacked sense ever since his predator found him. I know this firsthand because that child, I am. I lived in confusion and denial, haunted by my recollections. I increasingly moved into isolation, having been threatened if I ever shared or mentioned all the pain that he inflicted, promising to feed on my little brother too. So what the fuck would you do if you were in my shoes? I was a specific type of victim. The byproduct of negligence from divorced parents who leaned heavily on a flawed court system. I was susceptible to doubt and ridicule, indoctrinated into hyper-masculinity as a way to eliminate my vulnerability. I became that boy who couldn't cry, so I destroyed the world around me in order to feel warmth as it died. No one noticed that I had turned empty inside. It's been over 25 years and I still can't forget him. I was around 10 or 11 years old when I met him. This was around the time when I was studying catechism. This confession isn't criticism towards Catholicism. It's the release of decades of silence as a coping mechanism. Joel was a missionary who was transferred from Costa Rica, stationed at the church on Pico in Mariposa. He resembled Scarface's boss, Alejandro Sosa. I don't know how he came to live with us other than he quickly gained my father's trust. Joel was cloaked as a man of God, so Pops placed him above suspicion. All the while, he was grooming me for his devious perversion. I didn't have a choice. My voice was silenced as I was forced into sexual violence. This was shortly after he began to reside with us. These occurrences corrupt even my current views on healthy relationships. I endured this abuse for over 18 months until Joel was transferred to another parish. For years, I struggled with a desire to perish. He never paid for his crimes. He just simply vanished, and I was left with the task to unpack this karma. I've spent over 2 decades processing my trauma. The day after my birthday in 2016, I received a message on my requests on IG. Suddenly, I froze with fear and panic. Tears began falling from my eyes without my consent. Joel had found me on social media. Apparently, he'd been seeking me out. His message was littered with nostalgia and excitement. He was even bold enough to state that I had brought him fulfillment. He offered me his hand in friendship and closed his message with the hope that my response would be quick. It took me a week to find the courage to put my thoughts in order. Before I did, I shared for the first time in my life what had occurred with my mother. She believed me, and that alone brought me comfort. I then asked my younger brother if he'd ever been violated. He assured me that he was always safe and protected. So I responded to Joel by confronting him, reminding him that he betrayed my trust when he robbed me of my innocence. That I was no longer a scared child at 12. I was more of a man who was well into my 30s, promised him that if I ever saw him in person, I would do more than dirty. I took his silence as a response that I wasn't crazy. I didn't make this shit up for attention or pity. If you crumble a rose, it still maintains its beauty, even as it begins to decompose. Its fragrance is released as a reminder of its fleeting existence. The sense memory is its only permanence. Thank you.
Intimate partner violence is defined as physical violence, sexual violence, stalking, and psychological aggression by a current or former intimate partner, and is preventable.
Intimate partner violence threatens the well-being of millions of people and their families every single day. Intimate partners may include current or former spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, dating partners, or sexual partners.
Intimate partner violence can occur between heterosexual or same-sex couples. Some victims may suffer just one experience, while others endure violence that lasts for years.
1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men have experienced intimate partner violence in their lifetime. And 1 in 10 high school students have experienced physical teen dating violence, which is a form of intimate partner violence.
Intimate partner violence consequences are widespread.
It impacts physical and mental health. It results in billions of dollars in medical, mental health, and lost work productivity costs.
But the good news is that intimate partner violence is preventable. We have strategies that can help you prevent this problem in your community. We can prevent intimate partner violence by teaching safe and healthy relationship skills, engaging influential adults, working to prevent violence starting in early childhood, creating protective environments, strengthening economic support for families, and supporting survivors to increase safety and lessen harms.
Go.
And that was Stand Up, Speak Out. And wow, how incredible were those performances we just witnessed. This was definitely some heavy material, and we're about to head into a conversation that could potentially be heavy as well. So I hope wherever you are viewing this virtual space that you're finding moments of peace and ease during this. I know it's easier said than done, but you are not alone, and we're all processing this together. But before I introduce everyone, I wanted to remind all of you that during this conversation, if you were to want to ask questions or add any additional resources to the chat, just add it below. So now I would love to introduce our lovely poets. We've got Amon. Unfortunately, Nancy Azcona couldn't join us this evening due to a previous engagement, but I'm sending them all the love and support today. So hi, how's everyone doing?
Doing well. Some great, yeah, amazing stories, heavy, but honored to hear them.
Awesome. You know what? I'm actually going to introduce everyone again since I heard the sound was down. So we've got Alpharaoh, Amon, Elise, Keeley Williams, Linda Ravenswood, and Naneka Jackson. And again, Nancy Azcona could not join us this evening because of a previous engagement, but I am sending them all the love and joy because their piece was amazing. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the chat, the conversation. Your pieces were all so amazing, and I really enjoyed watching and hearing what you had to say. So I guess our first question or topic that we'll bring up is I want you all to talk about your pieces and how they came to be, what inspired them, and what do your pieces mean to you personally? Anybody can jump in.
I'll begin because that was my cat in the background.
Oh, we love animals.
You'll probably hear her. But yes. Oh gosh, I blanked. Can you repeat the question one more time?
No problem. So I just wanted to ask about the journey of your piece and how it started. What was the inspiration behind it, and how did it mean to you personally?
Yes. So I didn't have. It's terrible to say you don't have inspiration, but like, yes, obviously everyone does. Let me know if you can't hear me, by the way, because I know sometimes you go in and out. Okay, perfect. So I write from moments in history, right? A lot of my work is very autobiographical, whether that's from my perspective or dear friends or anyone else. And this one definitely came from a conversation I had with my brother, which sparked in a series of conversations I've had with my brother since, and really honed in on the lack of education we have with our male family members, and how I don't talk to them about consent or what that means or how freely it's given or isn't given, and how to address those situations and what is the new bar that we're raising it to. And the things I wish I could say and be heard and to be just taken at face value as like, yes, what she said is absolute truth. I don't have to consult with another penis having member of my family to like, be like, is she right? Or anything like that, and just say it the first time. That's how I wish I could have had that conversation with my brother, but instead had to be polite and check him kindly and make sure the message was palatable for him and others, and slowly piece it across multiple dinners of Thanksgiving, as opposed to just all at once and be like, look, this is what you did. This is how you messed up. This is how it made me feel. Let's focus on that and start from there with an apology, and instead had to be like, hey, so, I feel like you could have worded that better, or like and I wish I could have said it as viscerally as I wrote it. And that my inspiration comes from moments where my outer voice failed me. So yes.
Awesome. And anybody else could jump in too.
Hi, Kelley. This piece was trying to think of how to really connect. I don't particularly with like domestic violence, but I deal personally with kind of gaps of memory. I realized, as I got older, like, wow, like people have these great memories of childhood, and I have like so few memories. And it didn't occur to me till I started to kind of think about it more and more. And so I know that a lot of, repressed memory happens in a lot of abuse situations. And so for me, wrote from that, my own personal experience of just kind of what it meant to feel like there was connections between me and people who've been sexually abused or abused in certain ways, but I didn't have anything to recall it from until I ran across a picture, and it all just kind of comes back and then it stops at the same time. And so just dealing with that of like, do you continue to try to find out, unearth those memories, or you just say, clearly my brain is doing me a service, or it's protecting me in some way, even though it still affects you, and it's like, how can you move forward? But it's also, I think I just kind of thought of the others who've been victimized to the beast mentality, the monster mentality that humans adapt sometimes, and how it's been decades or it's been years and these revelations come to you, and what do you do with that then, and how do you have justice, and how do you live your life still fully and wholly? But yeah.
Amazing. All right.
I guess for me, Bradford asked a really good question about, the type of therapy, right? That was effective, right? For me, and I've been in therapy for like 20 plus years now. And a lot of it was getting in touch with my inner child. So doing a lot of like regressive memory therapy, and being able to tap into those really painful memories and really just connecting with my inner child, reminding my inner child that I was safe, that everything was going to be okay. And I remember one of those sessions that was like one of these breakthrough sessions where I was able to actually go as the adult version of myself and have a conversation with that child that was wounded, that was scared, that was betrayed, that was angry, right? And so, as an artist, my art has always been self-therapeutic. It's always been a way for me to not only express, but to process, right? And so I grew up in really dire circumstances, and the arts, being a poet, being a lyricist, having a piece of paper and a pencil was my salvation, because I can create entire worlds from my imagination. And so that always kept me safe. So, after so many years of keeping my trauma as a secret, I started noticing that it was affecting me to the point that it was starting to kill me. Literally, it was killing me. And so I needed to express it. And when I say that acting saved my life, it's not an understatement. It's really what happened right through the process and learning to become an actor, and learning to become a writer, and learning to become a professional poet. I was able to take these experiences that were the biggest sources of shame, the biggest sources of pain in my life, and I was able to turn them into art, and turn them into opportunities to teach, opportunities to provide comfort and growth to people that may not be there yet, but if they may be able to see a slice of themselves reflected in the process of the creative expression, then I'm being of service. And so my trauma isn't wasted. It isn't something that has to be a marred scar on my life. It could be something that can be used to empower others. So that was kind of like the inspiration. When I was approached by this project, I was really excited because I needed to write this piece. And it was really difficult for me to write this piece. So I know that I'm on the right track as an artist because I didn't want to write this piece. And I really just, once it started coming out, I couldn't stop, even if I wanted to, because it was just something that needed to come up. So I don't know if that answers the question, but.
Oh my God, absolutely. Yes, it does answer the question. And you definitely do bring up good points that I hope everyone else answers too, about how your work affects you as an artist, as a person. I think a lot of people think of us artists as like these other beings and not humans that deal with traumas, and we have to go to therapy, and we have to deal with traumatic situations as a human. And how does our art reflect that? And do we choose to let our art reflect that? I think that's also a good thing. And if y'all want to bring that up, that'll be great. I'd love to hear your perspectives. And I also would love to hear, Linda, if you'd like to talk about your piece. Sorry, I have a siren.
Thanks so much. I think I'd just like to let the poem just stand on its own, if that's okay.
Absolutely. I completely understand. Absolutely. You know, it's funny when I actually have seen a few art pieces where people are just like, I don't want to give a description. I want people to take it in fully without me tainting anything on it. And I appreciate that when artists do that a lot, because it gives me a perspective and it feels very personal now reading your piece. So thank you. So yeah, I would like to also talk about, does anybody else want to share more about their piece personally and how it affects them? All right, well, I want to move on and talk about something that also is important with this subject, and that the DOJ analysis, the Department of Justice analysis, 80% of people who have dealt with intimate partner violence haven't reported the crimes and have many reasons for why they choose not to. So I wanted to talk about that with you folks. And if you have any experiences with knowing that or knowing somebody who's dealt with it. I know with my personal experience, I am a sexual assault IPV survivor. And in the past, I have stopped myself from wanting to say or come out with it because of being told that I'm wrong. And a lot of the good reasons that they list in this analysis is that people are worried about retaliation, not just from their perpetrator, but also society at large. People don't trust the police. And I guess that leads to a good question, like, is our justice system trustworthy? I know that's a funny question to even ask at this time. And then there's also victim shaming and not being believed, which is a very big thing. I know most of us in this room, in this Zoom, are also POC, and also there is more implications that happen to us as people of color because of this justice system. So if anybody wants to talk about any of that and we can have a conversation, that'd be great. If anybody has any more insight or reasons why people choose not to.
I mean, I think it's the fear of like what I say in my piece, right? The fear of ridicule, the fear of judgment. Personally, I grew up in a very hyper masculine, machista, immigrant Latino environment where, boys are supposed to be men and women are supposed to be women, and women have to stay home. And there's certain roles that are assigned, and then you're not supposed to move away from those roles, right? And so, that's why I start my piece the way that I do with it. We have to follow these certain structures and these systems that are set up for us. And so anything that disrupts that system must be because you're doing something to disrupt that system. You are the cause and the problem, right? And so personally for me, it was difficult to be able to be open with anyone because, first of all, I was a child. And I was convinced by an adult that if I shared what was happening to me, first of all, no one was going to believe me. Second of all, I come from an immigrant community. I was also told that if I told anybody that it would put my father in danger and that my father could be deported. And then the last thing that I was told was that if I said anything, that my youngest brother would be victimized as well. And so when you're a child and you don't understand the structures of how things work, and you don't understand that there's advocacy and that there's people that can help you and that there's support out there, you're really put in a situation where you're oppressed and you don't have a choice because you're governed by fear. You're taught to fear authority. You're taught to fear the very people that are supposed to protect you. So a lot of times that silence is born from self-preservation, or the idea that you are self-preserving in an effort to prevent the trauma from spreading, from occurring to others that you care, or potentially jeopardizing the people that you love, because somehow by you expressing your truth, you're going to put those around you in danger. And so, you know, that's personally why I never spoke about it until many, many years later when I was an adult and after many, many years of therapy. And unfortunately, you know, there's a lot of people that don't have access to that. And and we need those resources, right? I mean, I wish that we had something like this when I was a child. And you know, and it's unfortunate because a lot of the times the perpetrators are people that we know, family members, and oftentimes they're men, you know, so it's really tough. Yeah.
Absolutely. I can definitely second on the fact that there's not enough access to mental health and care for folks. It's a very important thing that people need help with. And a lot of us suffer and deal with depression and anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder because of these experiences that we deal with. And the fact that we don't have access to enough of it, it's kind of frightening. I have to be honest about that. You know, we're all dealing with so much. I would say that the reason why I didn't come out was because at the time, George Zimmerman in the Trayvon Martin case was being acquitted at the time, and my perpetrator happened to be a Black man, and I felt bad about reporting a case because he was a Black man that did this to me, and I didn't want to be another person adding another Black man doing something bad. So do I regret that decision now? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm outside of the statute of limitations now of trying to report anything, but that was my reasoning.
Forgive my cat. She's in like a meowing phase, so you're gonna hear her. But for me, it's happened multiple times. The first time was with someone I considered my best friend. I didn't have the words to accurately display some things. I was like, maybe I was at fault. And I didn't know until maybe weeks later, the words for what had happened to me. I didn't claim those words. And even so, I was like, it's hard enough. I don't want, like, I was in school, I had 1,000 things going on. I didn't want something I had already decided was behind me and I was no longer going back there. I didn't want to re-bring it up for what seemed to be everyone else's benefit but mine, or like for justice's benefit. And I just felt like I was over it. Not over it mentally or emotionally, but just over it. Like, I'm closing that door. I don't have time to go back. I don't want to go back. The second time was awkward. And I mean, awkward to speak about it because I was in a role that would have been seen as compromising. And I also didn't think I would be believed. And whenever I had that same feeling where when you call the cops, you as a Black person are not looked at as like the highest source of truth. I'm constantly looked at as the perpetrator. As it's been proven recently in the media, you can call the cops and not end up alive at the end of that call. That is a very serious fear that I will call them, they will show up and not know that they're supposed to be there to help me. I've never viewed authority, at least legal authority, as saving or as any type of, that's not where help comes from for me. So it's not an option I would ever use. And so the second time was extremely awkward to resolve, because I was like, I'm not it's a new city, it's a new place. I'm not sure where to go. I don't feel like going anywhere. I know that when I go, I don't trust this officer. I've never met this man. And when I did build up the courage to go, I was told that this would have been that person's first offense. They didn't have a prior record. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. I am the one who I was essentially talked out of making the report. Because obviously it's not a big deal if it's their first offense. I'm like, well, if you tell everyone who calls you that this is when are you ever going to record the first offense? What is so wrong with me being the first offense? Why do we even need a multiple reports on a person to then make it serious, or to take someone seriously? And I don't think I will ever go back to, I don't think I'll ever choose the police or legal means as a recourse for this. Like, it's never going to be an option. It's never going to be considered a safe option for me. I hate to be a downer. Sorry. But
no, that's just the truth.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
That's just how I'm feeling on it.
Absolutely. And I think a good thing to bring up is that, we're all in this space right now able to share, which is such a huge leap. And it's such a huge journey to be able to acknowledge that our experience actually existed in our life, because there is a point mentally where you're like, did this actually happen to me? And you question it. And then you go to therapy, and then they're like, no, this actually happened to you. You told me everything that happened, and this is what happened. And to be at this point and to be at this journey of standing up and speaking out, it's a really big thing. So I commend all of you for it. And if you all want to speak more on your journeys, that would be great. We actually have a few questions in the chat right now. So one of them is, let me see. So how does it feel to put these out publicly now? Like these pieces of work. I know some of you all have already had these pieces of work out, so if you want to speak on that too. But I know for some folks, this is the first time, like Alex mentioned. So if y'all want to speak on how it feels to have it out, that would be great.
This is the second time that I've read this poem publicly, and each time it's really a release. It's just like something, it just feels really good to get it off my chest, and also to just bring light into that space where there was like a lot of darkness. And also for my piece, particularly with my situation, it was my partner at the time is a non-binary person, and I feel like there's not a lot of discussion around intimate partner violence, especially in queer relationships and Black queer relationships at that. And because of that reason, it was difficult for either of us to get the resources that we needed in order to navigate that situation successfully. And so this piece is kind of born of that weird situation where you have had this terrible experience with this person, but it's like you can't know them anymore. But there's this shared history, like how do you navigate that? And so this piece is an exploration of that.
That's awesome. And that question was from Michaela Buckley, and she said hi to me, so I wanted to say hi back. We have another question from Guy Marshall, and he asked, does it help you to create and actually share such a personal story? So I guess where he's coming at is, does it help to share, or do you sometimes feel like you shouldn't share, maybe? I think we were speaking about that a little bit before, Linda, about whether or not to describe. So maybe you might be good at answering.
Sure, happy to. Thanks. I love to share the art pieces that come out of those experiences. It's cathartic and hopefully healing for me and other people. And yeah, while I don't particularly feel okay about sharing those, personal histories, I guess, in a more descriptive way. I do really appreciate the times when my pieces have been published. I've written several short stories about the pieces and actually named the people, but
Wow.
I've never really talked about it, publicly before, but I am happy to write about it. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I appreciate that. And also, like, sometimes I feel like maybe sharing too much can also be triggering for the artist itself too. But everybody is in a different space mentally with where they're at with their trauma. So I feel like it's best for people to meet themselves where they're at with this. And that would be my answer to that question. So I'm trying to see more questions in the chat, but I've got another question. And I think we've been talking about this a little bit more. Just how have we, our art pieces uplifted us ourselves? Our art, we create for, who do we create for? But I know that for most of us, we create for ourselves and our healing. I know Alex mentioned that earlier. And how did that healing help you in these last few years with your journey to hear? I don't know if Kelley, maybe you want to answer the question.
Sure. Yeah, I think well, at least for me, what when I'm creating something, it's often, I'm ruminating over something in my mind or in my spirit. And it's like a word, and it's kind of just trying to get it out. It's like, let me just get it out of my head and put it on something. And then for me, when I'm writing, I often discover truths or about the situation or enlightened about something. And I'm like, oh, that was in there. I just had to kind of, excavate it out of me. And some pieces are very easy or easier to, you feel a need to speak it, to just kind of also give it that extra, it feels like an exorcism, which is just kind of a little intense, but it is intense. It's raw and it's on the paper or on the computer. And then the next level is being able to speak it out. And there's pieces that are like, I just wanted to do it once and that's it. And maybe I'll come back to it and say it. Maybe that's, in a week or in years or just enough to read. Because it can be re-traumatizing to kind of go back to that. But I mean, at least for me, I'll say for this one, it was easier, being able to be a little bit more detached with this one. I don't know if sometimes there's just a block of like, I don't really want to go into the visceral feelings and emotion. And there is another piece that I'm like, no, we'll just keep that one over there. I don't really want to go for that, and I think as artists, it's very important for us to be aware of when it's like, no, I'm not ready to share. I don't want to share. I don't need to go back to that piece right now. Just to preserve our well-being, because we do give so much. We do put all of ourselves in our work, and we give it its authentic voice when we speak it or we give it voice. But it is healing, but it's in the process of healing, and that healing journey has its ups and downs, and it's messy, and sometimes it goes side to side, it's not always linear. But I've found that the first time you actually kind of do something, you feel like, whoa, the whole world is gonna like be able to judge me and know something about me and kind of see me in this raw way. But then you think about the people that you're able to touch or who have similar stories. And it's for those people, I think of people who I'm like, okay, who else, what other woman or a woman, whether it's another Black woman or a young woman or someone who's gone through your experience, is if it's just for that one person to be like, I am not alone in this feeling or this situation. And for that, I think at least for me, it's always worth it to be vulnerable in my work, just for for that.
Yes, absolutely. And you brought up such great terms too, like excavating and bringing these really heavy, dark things up to light and shedding light on such subjects as this, intimate partner violence. And I wanted to close this out shortly by asking all of you if you have anything coming up that you want to shout out, any Instagram handles that you want us to follow to support you. So I just wanted y'all to share it out and give space for y'all to do that.
Well, I wrote a book.
Yes, you did.
It dropped April 2nd. It's titled How to Bare Your Teeth at Strangers. The title is spelled correctly. It challenges the way we carry our teeth and how, like, all the words that we don't get to say. And it's segmented by, I'm crazy about teeth, but it's segmented about like by molars and different sections. And there's an entire section that is dedicated to intimate partner violence, and comes with its own trigger warnings. And definitely I've had people call me and let me know, like, the way the book is sorted is for healing. And the link is in my Instagram bio, which is conveniently my name, just at Amon Elise. And outside of that, I'm all over Southern California with my open mics, and I attend just about anywhere that they'll have me. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just got a message from Linda that you can follow her at the Los Angeles Press, which you do so many amazing things, Linda. Like it's crazy. So definitely follow her for sure.
Thank you, friend. Thank you so much.
And Kelley, where can we follow you, and what do you have coming up next?
This I almost said March, but May 2nd. So this Sunday, it's this amazing rally in March that I'm honored to also be able to recite some work there, but amplifying voices of Black women and genderqueer folks to celebrate with speeches and performances, art showcasing, and the beauty of the Black community. And it's called Black Woman, period, with a T at the end of it. And it's at Pan Pacific Park, 7600 Beverly Boulevard, and it's 12 p.m. So yeah, come by, bring a blanket. It's all ages. There'll be ASL translators and wheelchair accessible. So that's the next thing. But yeah, just a great opportunity to have a celebration.
Awesome. That sounds so great. And how about you, Alex?
So I have a couple of performance writing workshops coming up. They're community-based, they're social justice-based. Some of them are being done in South Central Los Angeles, some in Southeast LA, and a couple of them being done in Northridge. These are community funded, so they're open to everyone. If we were in normal times, we would probably be doing them in person, but they're going to be done via Zoom. So if anyone wants to know more information, I'm going to be rolling out the 3 different programs that I'm going to be teaching and facilitating, and you could just follow me across the board on all social media handles at Alpharaoh, the way that it's spelled on my name there, ALPHARAOH. And I am in the process of rehearsal. I am going to be performing my autobiographical solo show titled Wet, A Documented Journey, which will be coming to the Live at the Kirk Douglas Theater this June. So anyone that wants more information, stay tuned. I'm going to be posting updates. Actually, me talking about it right now is the first time that I'm speaking about it openly, because we've been, it's been a long process and a lot of work. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. But yeah, if you guys just follow me, like, I constantly stay busy. I'm creating, and I'm trying to be of service to the community. And yeah, so thanks.
Absolutely, that sounds amazing. Wow, the Kirk Douglas, like that's awesome. And Nneka, did you want to share anything coming up for you?
Sure. So I run Eka Vagina, which is a zine and also a creative hub for queer people of color. And the first issue of the zine, which is called Voice, is available for purchase right now. And you can find it at ekavagina.xyz. And then I also co-facilitate a quarterly creative workshop called Liberated Black Futures. That's my display pick. And the next one should be coming up soon. We just had the last one on Sunday. So if you follow Vagina on Instagram, you can like get the updates for what's coming up and also the link to purchase the zine.
Awesome. That sounds so great. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been such a lovely and thought-provoking conversation with all of you. And I want to personally thank Alex Alpharaoh, Amon, Elise, Keeley Williams, Linda Ravenswood, Naneka Jackson, and Nancy Azcona for sharing your hearts and your work with us this evening. You know, as a survivor myself, I know how hard it is on this journey to be in the place that we're at right here, right now, and sharing our experiences and sharing our work with folks. And I commend all of you so much for doing this. You have all moved me with each and every one of your pieces. And I'm so honored to share this space with all of you. And I hope to share this space again with all of you and talk about this because it's very important. I also want to thank our Skylight Live team. We've got Garrett Crouch, the video stream director, Michael TEOLI, opening music. We got Guillermo Perez for the graphic design, Judith Bourne for PR, and as well as the rest of the Skylight Theater staff and board because y'all are all amazing. And I want to thank you all for sticking around and watching. Should any of you, and I mean any of you watching this, be dealing with anything that we mentioned in this conversation, please visit www.violenceintervention.com/get-support. You are not alone. And if possible, please seek help in any way you can. And until next time, folks, make sure to check out skylighttheater.org for any of our upcoming events. And thank you for joining Skylight Live. I hope you all have a safe and healthy rest of the week. And I'll see you all later.